Start recording. So here's Unreal. For some reason, it's deliciously squashed right now. And we'll start off with Make Human. Again, we're going to do face tracking next week, and it's not everyone has to do it because it is a little bit more of a deep dive into Blender. I will show step by step how to do everything, though. So there's just one thing you have to do that's maybe a little bit out of the depth of somebody who's never done 3D mesh editing. But, you know, we're going to create our characters here. The essential thing is to go through and make the face correctly. And so as you save the project, it's not about, don't export it as an FBX for right now. It's really about saving it as a Make Human file. All right, so if I make a change here, let's do our glorious random. All right, that's just, there we go. That's not frightening. Just save it as. I'm gonna put this in the folder with my project. I like to make a folder called imports, and I'll make this one called midterms because I like to work on a bunch of different computers at one time. So I keep my assets together, and we're gonna save it as a Make Human file. That way you can come back, open it up, and edit it later. It's not about just exporting it. We're gonna spend 2 weeks in here, so this will be called Demo Davy. All right. And it's a Make Human file, MHM, and I'll hit save, and now it is saved. So now I can open this up and come back to it and edit it later on, which you can't do if you only export it as an FBX. All right. So the things to do to prep your face geo for doing face tracking is to come over to geometries. Include eyes, make them low poly. And I think I talked about that when we first did this. Hair, optional, but we'll do hair anyway. I'll just do short hair for now. Teeth. Yes, you have to have teeth. Let's do teeth base for right now. And the one problem with the teeth is that the teeth are connected in the back, and we'll have to go in and like take away like 3 polygons in the back so that they're not connected, and for this plugin to work. And that's like the kind of like the only thing I'm kind of worried about with everyone, you know, making a mandatory assignment. But anyway, teeth base. Obviously, I can make my own OBJ and then put it part of the Make Human community if I wanted to. We don't really need to worry about retopologizing. Definitely make sure you have eyebrows because that'll be a part of it. Eyelashes, go for it. Any eyelashes you want. And then face tracking includes tongue tracking. So make sure you include a tongue in there. And this character is almost ready. The one thing is that the head, this sounds horrible, the head has to be separated from the body. So the easiest way to separate the head from the body is to put on clothes. So if we put on some, don't care, rendering, no, where is it? Geometries, right? Clothes, the first one. Make sure you put on a shirt. That's the most important thing because we need to make sure that the neck is not connected to the arms for this stuff. There is a button that's by default says hide faces under clothes. So you see as I hover over that, the neck ends right there where the shirt begins. That is essential. If we don't hide that and it's connected, again, the face tracking won't work. It'll like screw up just with this plugin the way it is. So make sure the character's wearing a shirt. They can be pantsless. That's fine. And that by default, this hide faces under clothes is selected. So that's great. I'm going to save again now that I'm somewhat done with old Demo Davy. Cool. And then for the purposes of today, we do want to put it in the scene. So there are some poses we can use. We can go over to body poses, right? We might want to have it being more relaxing and standing like this, right? This might be fine for our scene just so we get something in there. There's a few of them. Most of them are action and where our guys be standing. So we'll have it posed there. And again, if you don't want to do face tracking, there is expressions built in. And we can be afraid and determined. So we can always give it expressions. And then for the midterms, for this phase, let's go ahead and just export it out as an OBJ. An OBJ is just geometry. It doesn't have lights. It doesn't have cameras. It doesn't have animations. It doesn't have a skeleton. And we're gonna, but it does import into Unreal, and this could be good for us to frame. It's our stand-in. It's our body double while we get ready for animations later on. So that's good for me. And let's go ahead and hit export. I didn't choose where it's going to export. Looks like it went to my desktop, but to be smart about it, I'm going to put it in my project, into imports, under midterms, and now we have demo Davey as an OBJ. It could be an FBX. We just don't want to get confused with all our assets to have too many FBX files around. Great. And now, Demo Davey, I think I already picked out a scene for Demo Davey. I want him to be, as you can tell, obviously, he's a weightlifter. So I want to have them being kind of, we're going to like do a parody of maybe Raging Bull, but this, instead of being sure of himself, he's going to be a klutz in the gym and not know what he's doing, and maybe be a sad story from the beginning instead of waiting to the end like Raging Bull. I'm just giving away spoilers for everything these days. So I'm going to go to my marketplace, or I'm going to go to my Epic Games launcher, and I found a little gem that I want to use. It's like super lightweight and small. I thought it was lightweight and small. Let's see, is it called exercise? Let's go to the marketplace itself. And search gem. There we go. I must have bought it on another account. Well, you're going to see me. I'm Mr. Moneybags. I'm going to splurge. Oh, I understand. I'm actually logged in as a student to help them out. I will sign out, and I will love the fact that I'm going to be screen recording two-step verification process. That's a waste of YouTube. All right. Give it a second. Cool. At least it doesn't try to ask me if I'm a robot. That's the best part. So we're back logged in as me, and I can get my gem. And by this time, most of you guys should have already taken a full scene from the marketplace and kind of deconstructed it. Each one has its own foibles. So there we go. It's owned, and it's unavailable. Well, that's weird. I'm not loving it. This one's called Home Gym Mini Pack. Why would it not be available? Oh, now it's available. Go figure. And our project is called VPD. Fall. Interesting. It already has a picture of the gym in there, and I haven't even added it. Ooh, time to restart the computer. I must have put it in the wrong. Let's add it to another project and say, let's browse for it. Spring.
Yeah.
There we go. You guys freaking out. You're like, come on, dude, don't you see this? Okay. There it is, and it shows up. Everything's fine. Who knows? It's 18 megabytes. That's why I like to use it. And it should just auto show up. Home gym. And so, yeah, you might have seen the marketplace assets. They usually have an overview where everything's spread out and you can see what they are. In this case, I'm going to be a little cheeky and just look at their showcase. And this is good for me. This is a good layout. I don't want to set this up, have you guys watch me do that. It's just inside of an inverted box. and this is the gym. So let's start there. I don't really love the background because we're losing a chance to get good parallax. So we might add in a little texture from our starter content just to liven up the space. And we'll look at materials. And, you know, it's a gym, so I think gravel or some sort of harshness would be fine. Rock, concrete, slate, any of this stuff is good for me. Concrete tiles. I'm sure it's not going to be UV nice. This gives us something. Cool. And the scene is already kind of lit. Let's go ahead and add in our character. We're going to assets, static meshes, and we'll make a folder for stand-ins. I'll import from imports folder. That's the wrong project. Imports, midterms, and Davy. It's not a skeletal mesh. Yes, bring in my materials. Create them. It doesn't matter to me. But one thing I didn't do is I didn't say bring it all in as one mesh. It also looks really tiny. So let's bring it in again and bring it in 100 times bigger. I probably should have exported it as centimeters instead of decimeters. But again, we're just playing with it. Try one more time. Import. This time I want to combine meshes. And then let's make it like 100 times bigger. Import again. That looks a little better. And here he is, hanging out on his back. A little big, but that's fine. Let's go down to 1/10. You know, or I could be smart and re-import it again. This might be an important lesson or helpful for some people here. You can change the import settings and re-import these things. So look at the import settings. So the transform, maybe 100 was a little much. Let's say 10. And then I think it needs to be -90 on the y-axis. Re-import mesh. That's the wrong axis. -90. Re-import. Third time's the charm. I'm sure there's like some sort of smart way of doing this instead of just trying every option. There we go. So it's going to be +90. Literally nothing else I could have chosen. Great. So now I don't have to worry about manipulating it later on. Everything's the right size to begin with, which is good. Especially when we're dealing with skeletal meshes. You know, when it generates collisions in physics, you want to make sure you're doing it at the right size so it generates that stuff correctly. Let's go ahead and save all. And then from my scene that I've laid out, I think that Davy is hanging out. I think they're going to start off maybe at the weights. I don't think there's no one here to spot him, so he's not going to be on the bench press just yet. And then I can take a look at a little bit of this lighting. All the lights are kind of tinted blue. You know, we can get into color theory a little bit later. It does have some warmth from a key light, a little peach key light. But I feel like there's a little dark over here. Make this radius a little bigger. That's fine. I'll just move it back and give a little bit of a rim light to him. You can kind of see that light coming in if I make it brighter. Right, see how it kind of fills in. So a little cool in the back, warm in the front, adds a little contrast. I think most of the lights will be coming from the top though. In this scene. Great. Alright, so I've addressed, I'm going to get an Academy Award for that lighting. That's fantastic. And let's go ahead and start adding in some framing. My idea is that I want to do 3 shots. I kind of want to frame him in the background with all the gear in the front to kind of show that, again, like that imposingness, right? I want them to be not too. I don't want to look up at them, up at him, and make him look like a hero. I kind of want to frame him. Maybe I want to frame him so that I'm looking down, making showing the stature. And to do that, I kind of want to do it. I want to move the camera. I want to start like at his level and then raise it up, which we call that a pedestal shot, and then be looking down at him at the end of the shot. So that'll be shot 1. I'm going to create a cinematic camera around here. All right, and then I can pilot it if I want to, and get in here and kind of frame him on the thirds. And then I want to have a little depth of field. I also want to reveal. I want to keep him out of focus for this first shot. So I'm going to come down to my camera properties, and instead of just doing a universal zoom lens, there's that idea of doing these different f-stops on longer lenses that gives you a better depth of field, or a more thin depth of field. So if I should go for an 85mm lens, all of a sudden we realize we have to kind of change the way we frame it. But in the same way, it compresses that frame a little bit too. Just like we were talking about with Lawrence of Arabia. You get the telephoto. There you go. It looks a little more compressed. And then the focal length, we can bring that in or out. You also have a focus settings, and you can actually do a manual one and use this dropper to choose what you actually want to be in focus. So I can start off with this in focus, but I want to start animating this stuff. So let's go ahead and add in a cinematic level sequencer, and this is going to be shots midterm. All right, let's throw in the camera, and for the first. Those first 5 seconds is fine. Let's do a focus pull. All right. So we're going to go back to the camera settings, and all these little things means we can keyframe them. So we can keyframe the distance. We can digital film. Let's make this a DSLR. So these are different film backs. You can play around with this stuff. And then focal length. Manual tracking, disable. Okay. Aperture. And then let's pick a focus plane. Joink. Boom. So now we're kind of focused on those weights at the beginning. That's keyframed. It's at 449. That's cool. And as we maybe animate the camera up, we will change the focus. Everything's in focus right now, but hopefully it'll change a little bit. We'll start a little lower. Framed here on the third with the head, and we'll keyframe the transform. And then we'll come up to the end of the shot, and we'll move them up so it's framed on that third. All right, and then the thing I want to animate. Maybe we'll look at this. Will be in focus. All right, so we're doing an animation of location, and then also of there we go. So it's going to come out and come back in. Let's see. Digital Prime film. We can always come back to this since we are somewhat running out of time. Let's go ahead and frame our other shots. This was an important thing. So we have a little bit of a tracking shot. All right, we're looking at the gym equipment. Maybe we can start a little bit lower, so I can see the bench too and identify what it is. Again, we don't really care if he's in focus because we're going to try and make him out of focus next week. All right, so looking at the gym equipment, that's cool. I want to do a shot where he is, we're looking at his eyes, Right? I want to be able to really get in here and see that he's worried. So let's add a camera right here. That's going to be our extreme close-up. Again, we want to reveal who he is at the very end. So I can parent him to the static mesh. It doesn't matter right now because there's no bones because it's not an FBX. But we can get it here, and as we move it around, it'll move this camera around with us. And we have our second shot. I can increase my a sequencer by going over here and saying now make it 10 seconds. And let's throw in this camera and add it to the camera shots. If I want to be nice to myself, I can always rename these, right? Like this is opening shot. I would always leave the word camera in there so you can search for all your cameras. Sure. And then the other one we'll call close up, extreme close up camera. Sure. And then for me, I like to keep kind of my stuff organized that I'm animating. So let's bring all these things into a folder and say, 00 animatables or blueprints or, whatever we want to keep at the top so it's easy to find these things. And I'm not going to move any of these. So let's go ahead and put them in their own folder so they can go away. This is props. And let's go ahead and do all our lights. Because we're not doing VR or anything, we can go ahead and make all these movable, so we don't have to worry about building lights. So change all these to movable. And then all the point lights together. Great. Now we have our shadows. We have our second shot. So it's going to be out of focus, extreme close-up as they are under duress, and maybe a final reveal that will make this now 1/3 shot. Let's make it 15 seconds long. And add in a third camera. That third camera is going to be a dolly in to kind of frame him and say, here he is, folks. So add in the famous dolly track, which is called Rails. Face it around, position it. Cool. Add in a camera for that one. Let's just go ahead and just jump on it, create a camera. Great. And let's parent it on the rails, zero it out. And then let's start with the opening. Let's go ahead and raise it up so that we can get above the ground. Cool. Get that camera. And with the camera, we always want to look at his head, no matter where we are. So let's say enable looking at, and then what's the actor to track? It's Davy. And let's lift it up so it's always kind of looking at his face. There we go. And this camera, we definitely should change the lensing so we can do a universal zoom. We can just zoom in. I would do a Western zoom if we want to. That'd be kind of funny. Let's keep it like that. Maybe we could change the lens to another prime lens, like a 50. 50 millimeter is kind of what your eyeball is. So your eyeball, I think, is a 48 millimeter lens. So this actually is like the most honest way of looking at him is through that lens. And then the rail is animated from 0 to 1. So let's go ahead and start at 10 and animate that 0 on the rails. Boink. And then at the end, at frame 15, make it 1. Add a keyframe for that. And we'll add that to the camera cuts. So we've already kind of gotten our baseline. We know what we're setting up everything for next week. So let's just go ahead and add camera cuts. That's the wrong one. Undo. And we're ready to jump on it next week. This one is called Camera Actor 2. Camera Actor 2. Oh, I need to throw it into blank. Keyframe. And add it to the camera cuts. Great. So we have some shots. We'll see how that works. We can move them around and play around with it. But we have some ideas here. Cool. So we have 3 shots blocked out. I could take some screenshots to add it to my mood board and whatever. And we've already gone ahead and prototyped. So I'll go ahead and stop here. And then